First I was afraid, I was petrified. I think that I'm alive and living line and my night. Come to the system in line, I've been in law. I don't know, I'm never know, it's all I feel. I'm not afraid. So my resolution for 2022 was to sing more.
No! God, please, no! No!
I guess that was not a good resolution for me, right? Anyways, welcome back to Torn Apart. As you can see, I'm back here in my... It's not a studio, it's an apartment. I'm here home. I'm back home, basically. Yeah, I'm back home. So I can finally show you my face, how much it has changed, how much we have all grown up in 1 year. And we've finally reached the end of the adventure when it comes to Dexter New Blood. And I wanted to come back to that series. Long story short, I had a really good time with Dexter New Blood. It is a really good season, and let's actually have a look and break down every single episode and all the different characters, what I liked about them and what I didn't like about them. Finally, we'll be able to answer that question. Was this ending better than the one that we got so many years ago? Let's find out.
I might still be a monster, but I'm an evolving monster.
I will try not to go into spoilers that much, of course, but just be warned. And if you want to catch up on everything that has happened on Dexter, I'm gonna link you my video up here because I did a beautiful wrap up that took me a really long time to edit, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. First of all, I'm gonna be addressing all the different theories that I had when it comes to this new season, and then we'll go step by step into the actual season itself. So first of all, I was really afraid that there were gonna be too many ghost apparitions, but it was actually worked out really well. Everything when it comes to Debra being there, it's really well done, and actually really kudos to the performance of the actress playing Debra because she's incredibly scary. She's incredibly cruel actually to Dexter.
I'll make sure Harrison is safe.
Yeah. Good call. Leave it to the police to handle. What could possibly go wrong?
Hey, that's fucked up.
And even though it is kind of a physical representation of a part of Dexter's personality, it really feels like its own person. And there are some moments when actually this ghost apparition like grabs Dexter by the neck, telling him that he's a monster and other things like that, and it really works out, and it is really scary. The ghost apparitions actually, they are handled like in a couple of really good horror films that came out in the last few years. If you think about the Babadook, for example.
No!
So the ghosts in this season here, they kind of represent different deep emotions like grief or loss, and they feel incredibly threatening and they feel like real characters, and I think they really handle it quite well. The other thing when it comes to ghost apparitions, I was afraid that the Trinity Killer was gonna come back as a ghost as well, but it actually didn't happen because the scene that was so talked about when it comes to Trinity Killer actor coming back was actually just one tiny flashback that really worked out, and I'm not gonna tell you why right now because I don't want to go into spoilers straight away. Just I was afraid that Dexter was gonna spend the entire season almost like being sad and nostalgic about the past and crying over his past mistakes, but it actually doesn't happen that much, and it was actually quite refreshing to see that the writers found new interesting ways of seeing the past. There are not that many flashbacks, which would have been an incredibly easy thing to do, and the flashbacks that are there are actually incredibly well shot and directed, and the actors who are coming back from the original series, they don't really take too much space when it comes to the season itself, and I actually love that because it really showed how you can create something that feels the same but also that looks incredibly different, and that's I think why this season worked overall, because the writers really had a new story to tell and it really shows. For example, there are some characters who end up learning Dexter's identity, and it is handled in interesting ways and it becomes very creepy actually. And I love the fact that Dexter actually, when he was trying to confess these things to another character, he ended up admitting that in the final episode when he was on that boat going towards the storm, he was 100% wanting to commit suicide. He wanted to die, and by some weird chance it happened that he didn't die, and he kind of took that as fate for him to keep going with his life and to keep suffering, basically. The new addition to the cast that I really enjoyed was Jack Alcott's Harrison. He's such a good actor and actually managed to play all of those kind of teenager vibes, but also feeling like a 50-year-old man. It kind of feels like Harrison has been through an incredible amount of stuff. He feels very mature, and it feels like he doesn't belong with all of his peers.
I wanted to look him in the eye and ask him how he could pretend like I didn't fucking exist. There have been bumps in the road since I got here. Maybe that's why.
And when it comes to his performance, there are some moments where he felt really threatening, and it really reminded me of Dexter, those moments where he just like lets out all of his anger towards anyone who happens to be there, and at the same time he would be able to look at you with those very naive and kind of nice puppy eyes. I think this season overall would have not worked at all if it wasn't for Harrison and Jack Alcott's performance. He's kind of driving the plot a lot more than Dexter, and maybe that might be why a lot of people find it this season feels very weird in comparison to the past ones. But I think it worked really well, because by the end of the season you realize that new blood doesn't only mean the fact that Dexter is starting to kill again, but it might also mean that there is literally new blood, a new force, there is new energy being put into this series, and it is Harrison as Dexter's son. When it comes to the pacing of the show, I really love the fact that this was released on a weekly basis. I had such a good time. Almost every single episode has had such an incredible cliffhanger, and it really reminded me of why I love these weekly releases so much. It builds an interesting connection, of course, with the community through Twitter, but also it allows you to kind of speculate and kind of digest the episodes in a very different way. I feel like 10 episodes was a perfect amount. They didn't need more, and they definitely didn't need less to tell this story from an emotional perspective. There are so many different things happening, and let's go into details when it comes to all the different episodes, the things that I liked. So this is gonna be your spoiler warning. If you still haven't seen all the different episodes of Dexter New Blood, come back later on, maybe when you've seen it, because we're gonna go into spoilers. The first episode is called Snap, of course, and this is a really good episode because there are so many different things happening. We are reintroduced with Dexter, and we're gonna jump right in. He kills Matt. Why does he kill Matt? I think I have an idea about it, and it's because basically I know Dexter quite well. I've seen the first few seasons so many different times, and I kind of understand him as a character, and he basically built himself a perfect routine so that he wouldn't be forced to kill people. And this routine is based on hunting. He goes out hunting with his rifle. The thing is, as soon as he sees his prey, he's gonna aim at it and he's not gonna shoot. And that's a very important thing, because basically he knows that he has the power to shoot, but in a very egotistical way, showing to himself that he has control over his urges, that prey is his, and that he's allowing it to be alive almost in some kind of fucked up way. At that moment when Matt actually shoots his prey, it turns him crazy. It literally makes him go insane. Not because he cared about the animal. He doesn't care about the animal at all. And I think he says something like, "What a waste." And it's because he was his prey. It was his animal, and someone stole that from him. So it kind of feels like, from his perspective, that someone stole that kind of control from him, and he's trying to reclaim it, and that's why he kills Matt right on the bat. I mean, then it's kind of funny because he tries to justify to himself why he killed Matt and why he actually fits the code because of the whole boating accident and the fact that he killed a couple of people. But the thing is, there is something that escapes the code, and it is the fact that he's not planning to kill other people. Matt is not a serial killer. He's not planning to endanger other people. Dexter has no proof of that whatsoever. So for this first episode here, we are already shown a Dexter that cannot control himself, and that he's not following his code at all. Keep that in mind as we go through all the different episodes, because this is gonna come up quite often in the season, and this is why I think the ending worked out quite well.
You selfish psycho. You emotionally handicapped, crazy fuck.
In the second episode, Storm of Fuck, we are introduced to the new killer. When I shot the last video talking about Dexter, I said that I was kind of scared about the idea of having a killer that just shoots people and disposes of the bodies and is basically not putting up any kind of show. And this is the episode where I started like being interested, because I realized that that kind of shooting at people who are running away is kind of a perfect modus operandi. It's kind of a perfect structure that the killer has set up. It's an incredible performance that he has put up for a specific reason, and that's the way that he wants to control the situation. And immediately from this episode here, I was like, I'm hooked. This looks like an interesting serial killer, and I want to see more. Especially if you look at the weird hotel fake room that he's created, if you look at the camera that he's set up, the way that he watches his preys, the way that their preys kind of know that there is something completely wrong going on, the way that he basically doesn't keep this act going for a really long time, because at the end of the day he wants to kill these people. He doesn't want to keep them there. And we'll go back to all of this, of course, with the episode The Family Business.
You fucking love that you're getting away with murder. You can't wait to kill again. You are a fucking serial killer. You are gonna fail this boy 1,000 different ways because of it.
In Smoke Signals, the most important thing that happened that I really liked is that moment when Kurt lies to Dexter, telling that he received a call from Matt saying that he was alive. He was just hiding because he was really ashamed of something that he did. And that moment was incredibly interesting, first of all, because this kind of ties up the plot of the Matt investigation, and I feel like it's a good idea just because it was like a really tiny thing, and I wanted this season not to focus just on one tiny thing. I wanted to focus on a lot of different things. That's exactly what happened. By the third episode, we're already moving on to something different, even though the Matt investigation, of course, will be lurking at the back of everyone's mind until the very end of the season, which is just incredible good writing.
Oh, I know.
She will cut you into threads. You're until you're dead with her 6-inch heel. Right between the eyes. It looks could kill the
Little Fargo, don't you think?
In the episode H is for Hero, Dexter goes back into his blood analyst rules and finds out that Harrison planted the whole thing when it comes to his friend who was planning a school shooting, and him being the hero who stopped him after he was attacked by him. It was actually a whole fake, of course, and it was all planned out by Harrison so that he could hurt that person with his barber knife. This is a really good episode because it ties everything back when it comes to Dexter's past and his incredible talent at basically reading a crime scene, and also because we're starting to understand that Harrison is kind of fucked up. Just how everything is unraveling, it's getting more and more intriguing and interesting. And I actually love the fact that Dexter knows that he's lying, but at the same time, he never actually confronts him straight away.
Run! No, this is not the way it's supposed to happen. No! No. You ruined everything.
In the episode Runaway, basically Harrison has OD'd and he's gone to the hospital, and Dexter is incredibly angry, and of course he's trying to track the drug dealer who sold the drugs and the drug distributor as well. I don't really remember if in the previous seasons he actually ever went after drug dealers, because it seems like a really weird thing. I don't even know if it fits necessarily the code, because otherwise there are a lot of people who would kill others by proxy, if you think about it, because as a drug dealer you are killing through the fact that people who are addicted to your drugs eventually die. When I was looking back at all the episodes, I was like, I feel like these people, they don't really fit Dexter's code, and it's getting really weird how Dexter, it feels like he's so out of control that he's acting very irrationally, even though he still thinks that he's actually acting for the best of the community, which is always done, you know, in the past as well. This is the episode, I think, also when we discover that the serial killer is actually Kurt, Matt's father, and I really like that. This is the episode where we are proven how important the staging of the kill is to him, because he accidentally, for example, kills one of the women by shooting at her in the eye, and he goes completely mental. And I really like that, because he kind of loses a lot of power. He looks very just pathetic, you know, he looks very pathetic, because this is such a weird thing to be crying about. But I really like that. This is another moment where I was like, this serial killer feels different, and I love it. And also within this episode, another cool thing that happened, Angela finds out about Dexter's true name and his identity.
The Bay Harbor Butcher. You know the nickname, and you know what he did. Dismembered his victims, bagged the bloody bits and hefties, and tossed them in the bay. Dozens of bodies strewn across the ocean floor.
Oh, the good old days.
In the episode's Too Many Tuna Sandwiches, Angela doesn't trust Kurt anymore, so she starts doing her own researches when it comes to Matt's disappearance, and she stumbles on a cave where she finds Iris' body, who is a girl who died 25 years ago. And thanks to Dexter, they actually find some skin tissue under her teeth. Do you know who it belongs to? I'm pretty sure that everyone knows who it belongs to, but I really like that scene. I really like the dynamic that is starting to build up with Angela. Angela is starting to hate Dexter so much because she feels completely betrayed, and I really love this dynamic, you know? In this episode, there is the first wrestling match for Harrison, and this is the moment when he goes completely insane, and he's not afraid of showing to everyone that he has a lot of anger issues, and he breaks basically this guy's arm. And there is this moment of tension when Kurt is basically like applauding him, being like, you did right, and then Dexter comes out, storms out of nowhere, being like, what the fuck is wrong with you, you know? And there is this tension in the room that I really loved, and I really loved how they managed to build this weird dynamic in between the two different father figures, the two different serial killers, and how they try to interact and bond with Harrison. I think they handled it really well.
You're right. You were right before, and you're right now.
Right about what?
I'm fucked up. I'm fucked up, and I always have been.
You're not.
In the episode Skin Over Teeth, Kurt is sent to prison for Iris' death, but he doesn't stay there for a really long time because he comes up with an incredible, weird and sad story about the fact that his dad was completely insane and that he used to beat up women, and it's probably him who picked up Iris and who killed her. We know, of course, it's not true because we're shown a flashback of Kurt actually in the truck picking up Iris, so we know that what he's saying is not true, and we actually get to witness his first kill. And it's really interesting. I like those kind of flashbacks, you know, especially when they are completely going against what someone else is saying in real time. I think it works really well because it's not showing you just something that happened. It is telling you something that you shouldn't know just because in real time he's saying something different, you know? And he manages to escape, of course, even though everyone knows that he probably did it, but they have no proof and they can't do anything about it because I'm pretty sure that his father either disappeared or is dead. So the investigation when it comes to Iris' murder is just stopped from there. At the end of the episode, incredible cliffhanger because someone actually grabs Dexter. The next episode is Unfair Game, and Dexter manages to escape from the person who kidnapped him, and it's a really cool sequence. It's really interesting how it really feels like he's the one being hunted, and he needs to outsmart him as much as possible because he needs to get back to Harrison, because Harrison has not been really kidnapped by Kurt, but he's with Kurt, and of course something bad is about to happen. Dexter knows it. So to escape this hunter, he actually kills him, and the motivation that he gives is revenge. This is the first time that he's just like, I'm killing you because you're trying to do something bad to my son, and I'm not gonna let that happen. Once again, there's no code. This is 100% like the first murder that started this season, something that is not rational, something that is not based on Dexter's code, because we don't know if this person is a serial killer, we don't know if this person has killed others in the past. This was 100% just a kind of a, not even self-defense, because he could have found a way to escape. It was 100% just revenge. I really love this episode because it shows how Kurt is trying to bond with Harrison, but he feels like something is wrong. He feels like he actually like enjoys, for example, that moment when the baseballs keep hitting him and he's in a lot of pain, you know. He doesn't show it, but I can see it through his eyes that he's kind of enjoying it, you know, to see that Harrison is in pain. And we can see that, of course, once again at the dinner table, once he's done feeding him and he's put on his serial killer costume, and it's just like, I'm really sorry kid, I have to do this because, once again, revenge, right? But I think like this is the moment where it shows that Kurt never actually loved Harrison at all. He was just looking for a replacement for Matt. I feel like Dexter himself, he saw some darkness in Harrison that kind of reflected back on him. So he was kind of like looking back into a mirror of when you were young, when it comes to Dexter and when it comes to Kurt. And that's the only reason why he was hanging out with Harrison so much. He was seeing a lot of himself in him. And I really love Jack Alcott's performance here when he finally finds out that Kurt is about to kill him, that he's being lying to him the whole time. Even though he received the text from Dexter, he didn't believe Dexter, of course, but that moment in his eyes when he realizes it, it's just, he looked so scared and disappointed to be betrayed by yet another person. Of course, Dexter comes to the rescue at the very last second. This was one of those nail-biting moments because you have no idea what the fuck is going to happen. But Kurt manages to escape, and finally Dexter tells the truth to Harrison, the fact that they shared the dark passenger, and he actually hugs him, which is an incredible, cool scene that I really love.
What's the dark passenger?
It's the name I gave the calling that I have.
Hey, careful.
Always there. Riding alongside me. Giving me
A lot of bad ideas.
This again, we're getting into the final act of this season, and it's getting really cool. In the episode Family Business, so Angela has been basically investigating all the different things that have been happening in the town, and she's found a lot of weird coincidences when it comes to Dexter, where he was, how the people that he attacked and interacted with, and basically she has a lot of circumstantial evidence when it comes to the link actually what happened in the town with the Bay Harbor butcher case from Miami. I think that their proof really wouldn't stand up in court. I think that even the fact that she wants to try it is incredibly weird, because you could grab anyone in the middle of the street whose job is to use needles, and you could force the evidence on them as well and be like, well, he's a nurse, he's a doctor who uses needles and ketamine on a daily basis. And actually, if you look through his book, he interacted with the drug dealer. So maybe if he interacted with the drug dealer, then he left the same marks on him, and he is the Bay Harbor butcher. I don't know, it's just very circumstantial. It felt very rushed. Just really felt like Angela was trying to grasp at anything to paint Jim/Dexter as the bad guy, because she had no faith in him whatsoever. That is maybe the only thing from a writing perspective that I didn't really like. Harrison and Dexter finding a way to kill Kurt and finding the bunker was incredibly cool. I really liked how they interacted. This is the first time where Harrison feels like he's actually happy because he's finally managed to connect with his dad about something that is really dark about him. And I really like also the fact that they go down into a bunker, and the final serial killer of this season is using once again a bunker. And if you remember correctly, Dexter's storyline started with a bunker because his mother was killed into one. The moment when Deb showed that he loved Dexter more than anything was in a bunker as well, when she decided to kill La Huerta. And once again here we're in another bunker. So I just really like how the bunker kind of theme keeps coming back from one season to the next, and I felt like it was a beautiful thing to put it here. And then they finally managed to get Kurt. He's completely tied up. I love how he still tries to reach to Harrison, being like, me and your dad were exactly the same, so maybe you should free me, right? And I love how basically like Kurt is saying that this is pretty cool, right? Like he's incredibly satisfied of his work, and he's seeing himself into Dexter as well. And just because all the performance and the staging that he's done when it comes to how Dexter wants to kill Kurt, I think this moment here is a moment of recognition where he kind of like feels completely free, at ease, to explain to Dexter why he does the things that he does. And this is a really cool moment because like we really see that Dexter doesn't want him to talk. Dexter doesn't want him to give his explanation about how he had a really bad childhood and his parents were awful to him, because it's not really an excuse for the things that he does, even though Dexter is exactly the same. I feel like this is the first moment in a really long time that I identified with one of Dexter's victims, and I felt like he was 100% right. In this moment here, they are the same. He might be the only one that fits the code since the beginning of this season, but they are exactly the same. Dexter used to keep trophies as well. He saw himself as a hero the same way that Kurt does, because he thinks that all of these women, they were gonna go out in the world and be hobos, and they didn't have a chance at surviving, and he gave them that and he kept them perfect forever. Also, I'm gonna say it here in this video, I want to coin the term the porcelain doll killer when it comes to this serial killer here. I don't know if they've given an official name, but I actually like this name, so I hope that more people will be using it. And this is an incredible, well staged and directed moment, because Harrison is of course witnessing everything, and Dexter is kind of like being very warm about it, being like, if you feel uncomfortable at any time you can leave, because of course we've seen flashbacks of Dexter's first kill and he was really clumsy and everything, and he felt really weird. So he remembers that and he doesn't want Harrison to feel the same way, but Harrison actually stays there for the entire time. And I think that this is the first time that Dexter actually feels close to someone in a really long time. This is the first time that he feels accepted by someone since probably the ice truck killer who used to be his brother. I don't know if you remember those scenes. Because Deb, even though she loved him, she never completely understood him. She just wanted him to get better. She didn't actually want him to be himself. She didn't really accept his identity. She based her entire love on the fact that they were brother and sister. And this is the first time in a really long time I feel like that Dexter feels that this person here accepts every single facet of him as a person. And this is a really important fact that would lead to the final episode, which is called Sins of the Father.
Do you ever think about how screwed up it is? You watched your mom get chopped up in a shipping container, and now you do the same shit to your victims?
And Harrison dealt with his trauma by arming himself with his straight razor, the same weapon used to kill his mother. What can I say? We are what we are.
Here, this final episode is really cool because once again there are a lot of things that are happening. For example, Dexter and Harrison go back to the house which have been completely burnt, and it's thanks to that actually Angela manages to find one of the surgical rods that were into Matt's knee, and that's how she finally manages to capture Dexter for the murder of Matt. So Dexter is behind bars. Before that, of course, he was talking to Harrison and he was saying that he wanted to build a new life in LA. And I really like this conversation here because like this is the moment where we understand that Harrison he feels at peace right now, which is kind of really cool because he's a very troubled kid. And this is the first moment where he actually feels very in control of everything that is going on in his life, and he just wants everything to go back to normal. And I really like that moment when he was just like, can we have a pool? And Dexter was just like, of course we can have a pool. We can have whatever you want back in LA. Once again, the theory that Angela has, the proofs that Angela has are completely circumstantial. There is no murder weapon. There is no actual body. There is no footage of him or witnesses of Dexter committing this crime. Literally, she has nothing. The only thing that she has are those rods who were sent to her by mail from Kurt and the rod that she found in Dexter's cabin. Even though those really belonged to Matt, they could have been planted, and it's not really a proof, is it? I don't know. I really don't think that the case would actually stick, and I think that Dexter actually flips out when she mentions the fact that she called Angel Batista and she told him that Dexter was alive and she was gonna be bringing the La Guerta case back to him, because actually it is revealed that Angel always believed that maybe Dexter was the Bay Harbor Butcher, which I don't think it's something that was mentioned in the final season, and I don't really remember if there was ever such a theory that was discussed among secondary characters. So if you remember that, just let me know in the comments, but it felt like a new thing, a new information for me anyways. And I feel like this is the moment where Dexter flips out and he's just like, even though they probably don't have enough evidence to nail me, they have enough evidence to keep me locked up and going from trial to trial for like the next 20 years. And I feel like this is why he decides to escape. I see a lot of people have criticized the fact that he killed Logan, he killed the coach, he killed one of the cops, because Dexter would never do that. Dexter would never kill an innocent person to save his skin, but I don't believe that. I honestly don't believe that, because they keep repeating across the entire season that one of the most important things is never get caught. They have given us proof that Dexter has not been following the code for the entire season, and of course it was leading to this moment, and it was leading to the final act here when finally Dexter manages to escape from the prison. He has led Angela away to Kurt's cabin so that she finally is confronted with the fact that he is a serial killer. She's busy doing that basically while he escapes, and he meets Harrison in the middle of the woods where Matt died, and basically they have this really cool and emotionally impactful conversation about the fact that Dexter killed Coach, Dexter killed an innocent person, and that he's not any different at all from all the other people that he put down. He starts having these flashbacks of all the people that died because of him who didn't deserve to die, and I think he starts to understand it, and he's like, I'm sorry for everything I've done to you. You deserve better, a better life, a better father. And this is the moment where Harrison is actually pointing the gun at Dexter, because Dexter is just like, if you don't come with me, I will run away because I don't want to get caught. This is the moment when he realizes that he needs to be stopped by someone, and he says, you have to take the safety off, just like I showed you. This is the only way out for both of us. And in this moment here, he actually shows him where to shoot, and Harrison shoots him. He shoots Dexter, who falls to the ground. And this is the moment where Dexter says something that really almost made me cry, and it's just like, this was the first time in my entire life that I felt love. If you like try to deconstruct this whole scene, it's actually quite incredible how much Dexter changes once he tells the truth to Harrison. He seems very euphoric, he changes completely. And this kind of made me realize that Dexter was kind of in hibernation for all of these years. He was pretending to be happy, he was pretending to fit in, which is something that he did back at the beginning of the series as well. And he came back to life when he killed Matt, when he started hunting again.
I can stop. I can do it. With your help.
I'm not your fucking caretaker. I'm your goddamn son.
I want... I need to be with you.
I'm honestly starting to believe, which is kind of like a really harsh truth, and that he was not really sad, he was not really miserable because of all the people that died because of him. He was miserable because he couldn't kill anymore, he couldn't hunt anymore. And I feel like this is the moment where we start to understand that Dexter cannot be cured, despite the fact that they've been trying to convince us that he can be cured for the entire season, for the entire show. Dexter cannot be cured, Dexter cannot be saved. Dexter cannot stop because it's an urge. And actually Harrison says something quite important when he says that it's not a passenger anymore, it's not a dark passenger, it's the passenger who is in the driving seat and you're just along for the ride. And it's an important thing that he says because it's true. Dexter realizes that. He has no control over anything despite the fact that he looks and he acts like he's in control. And he's never had any control and he was never getting better. I feel like this is also why a lot of people hated this finale here and even hated it more than what happened back then, which is impossible in my opinion, because I think that this is the finale that Dexter deserved. And it kind of reminded me also of Breaking Bad, the way that so spoilers for the end of Breaking Bad, so Walter White goes back to save Jesse and try to redeem himself, but at the end of the day he dies in a lab by himself. As the sirens are approaching, there is no redemption for those kind of people in the same way that there is no redemption for Dexter. It would have been very sad and complicated if they tried to actually put him behind bars, put him in jail. I don't think it would have felt very satisfactory. I feel like the fact that he understood love for the first time through the fact that Harrison managed to kill him, to stop him from killing others and hurting others. That's what actually made him happy for the first time in a really long time, in a very egotistical way, because he realized that Harrison might even be a better serial killer than him, that would follow the code better than him.
Dexter has always been desperate to be normal and desperate about the fact that he can't really be normal. As much as he tried to live a full public life, his internal life always wins.
I've never felt love, real love, until now.
And I really like the fact that Harrison has a completely different interpretation of what Dexter has been through. He sees himself almost as a vigilante, as a Batman and Robin type. And Dexter has never seen himself through that because he's just been driven by the dark passenger. He's just along for the ride, right? And I really feel like Harrison could be a better Dexter, even though he says at the very end of the season that they don't have the same dark passenger. He just has anger issues because of him. I actually don't believe it, because you need to be incredibly evil and Machiavellic to do the thing that he did for his friend when it comes to the school shooting crime scene. That is not anger. That is meticulous, planned out violence against someone else. But it is kind of weird because in the same time, Harrison basically did this because he wanted to go back to a normal life. But the thing is, if he kills Dexter, he's not going to go back to a normal life, because the thing that he does right after is run away. So he goes, basically when it comes to his character journey, he goes from a runaway teenager to a runaway teenager in one season. You might even think that there is almost no progression when it comes to his character, and I feel like that's one of the only things that doesn't really work and should have been dealt in a different way. But at the end of the day, I feel like this ending was really beautiful. Michael C. Hall's performance was incredible, and I feel like there are a lot of different nuances in every single one of his performances when it comes to the different episodes and how he interacts with the different characters. And I'm gonna love watching this season once again. Anyways, I really recommend it. It's definitely in my top 3 of the best season of Dexter. I mean, as a season overall, it feels very different. It is not filled in with a lot of nostalgia. So it is definitely, without a doubt, one of the best revival seasons of all time. No question whatsoever. And I honestly really liked this ending, and it really felt emotionally impactful, even though it was not the ending that we maybe expected or needed. It was definitely the kind of ending that Dexter deserved and that worked for the character himself. I will leave you now with an interesting interview that I found from the creator Clyde Phillips of the show, because there are some interesting things when it comes to the future of Dexter. Knowing how strongly fans feel about the series, there will be some who will hate the finality that Dexter's death will bring. What did you say to that? And Phillips answered, well, it's interesting. You should know that I lurk a lot on social media. Maybe I have too much time on my hands, but everyone has a different opinion. Some people think that Harrison isn't really Harrison, that the person we see killed the real Harrison. Some people think Harrison killed Hannah. There is got to be a panoply of opinions, so I just can't take it personally. We are ready for anything. When I read that in the interview, I was just like, oh my god, if that was true, it would be incredible. Just the fact to imagine that Harrison has planned the whole thing from the beginning. Just the fact that Harrison is basically lying about the dark passenger to Dexter for some reason, maybe because he's ashamed, or maybe because he doesn't understand himself as well as Dexter and he doesn't want to disappoint him in some way. He wants Dexter to think that he might actually lead a normal life. It would be an interesting way to lead this for a second season. I would watch it if it went into this direction. I would not watch it if it didn't deal with serial killers anymore, because that's the main attraction of the show, right? If they had another limited season of maybe 10 episodes, kind of like wrapping everything together and showing us how basically Harrison has become a better version of Dexter, maybe in LA, why not? I would really like that. I would really be hyped for it. At the end of the day though, I really enjoyed this season. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Dexter New Blood. It is quite cool to say goodbye to Dexter in a proper way. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's probably incredibly long because I really wanted to go deep because I just love Dexter so much. It's been an incredible part of my life for such a long time. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it always helps. I'm Patrick and this is Torn Apart. Da 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 da.